Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. We're here today at Charlie's Collectible Show for their Lorcana 10K here in round 8. I'm one of your announcers, SirAshtown. Joining with me today is Hal Brady from Lorcana. Hal, how's it looking so far?
It's been a long day. Been a lot of fun games with Lorcana. We've had some great matches on coverage today. We're on the last round of day 1. Day 2 is just a cut to top 8, and both of these players potentially still live to make that cut. 5-1-1. I was told they both have pretty good tiebreakers, so the winner of this may have a chance to squeak in. We've got Frank Nicola on Ruby Sapphire and Roderick Ricks on, it is not an overlay error, he is on Emerald Ruby. And I would be surprised if this wasn't the deck we heard about earlier. We heard that we had a backup match that we didn't have a chance to get over to, and the our stream chat just said, "Oh yeah, Emerald Ruby Bucky won that round." It's like, excuse me. So I don't know. 100% can't confirm this, but I don't know how many Emerald Ruby decks are in the tournament today. And I see a 1-drop Diablo in his hand. So if you're playing Diablo, you're probably playing Bucky. There's some interesting choices for Red Floodborns.
Is this just saying that you could play Bucky and Diablo with any color pairing as long as it has Floodborns and you're good to go?
We've had, obviously, Emerald Steel Bucky on camera. We've had Emerald Amber Bucky on camera. We could just do all the color pairings. But I don't know, not 100%. This may or may not be a Bucky list. But if you're playing Emerald, there's not a whole lot of reason not to play Diablo. I did see a B King Undisputed, a Maui, I believe Super Goof in his hand as well. The Flend Friendeby, I'm running out of syllables here. Flynn Frenemy, which we've seen a lot of on coverage this weekend as well. A couple of Ursula Deceivers, maybe a 1-drop Pegasus. So not really unconventional cards in these colors. It's just so far in Lorcana's history been an unconventional color pairing. But it doesn't look like he's playing any crazy underpowered cards. It looks like he's just playing good cards in those colors.
We were looking at this list or not this list specifically, but the idea of Emerald Ruby Bucky. And we were like, what shift Floodborns are there in Ruby? And if you take a look, there is a 3-drop. This Mulan character. Can't remember his name. Let's see if I can pull it up. Not Shang-Chi. It's Li Shang.
Yeah, Li Shang. So just kind of like, I think we were all like, Shox was like, when the set came out, I was like, oh man, Bucky gets like, in Emerald Steel, you have all these 3-drop Floodborns with obviously Diablo, but also the Aladdin. Kind of just forgot that there is a Ruby 3-drop one as well. So in this color pairing, you can have you can have that many different flood. You can have 8 3-drop Floodborns in this too. So let's see if this is the Ruby Emerald Bucky list that we heard about earlier. Can't confirm. I don't see a Bucky yet. No, I do. Never mind. There's a Bucky.
Wonderland here in the chat saying that this is Beat Candio's deck list.
Yeah, so Frank, kind of had the typical Ruby Sapphire start. Turn 1 Popsicle, turn 2 1 Jump Ahead, turn 3 the Hiram Flavor Sham. So all cylinders, all systems go for Frank. But Roderick's going to take a look at the hand again with that Ursula Deceiver. There's another 1 Jump Ahead to choose from. And Frank's got so he actually had the choice between a 1 Jump Ahead or a How Far I'll Go. And I'm actually kind of surprised he took the 1 Jump Ahead over the How Far I'll Go. But maybe he wants Frank to sing that with the Flavor Sham instead of questing with it if he potentially had another Popsicle, leaving it exerted and vulnerable to a challenge. But Roderick was also it's funny, the Flynn is the biggest attack power on the play on turn 5 because the opposing Flavor Sham is just not quite enough. Let's see if Frank can change some stats on the board and see if he can prevent that Flynn from gaining all this extra lore. Questing for 1, and after that Popsicle, going to go 2 cards deeper. It's going to have plenty of options to choose from.
What a day when your Flynn is the most powerful character on the board, giving you the extra 3 lore.
Yeah, it's it's pretty powerful. So yeah, okay, can confirm Roderick is on that Bucky. We can see it there in his hand. So just kind of it's unconventional, color combination, but I mean, he's playing all proven powerful cards in those colors.
Going up to 9.
Yeah, so Frank ended up did hard cast that how far I'll go. Yeah, Flint just going up. Yeah, I mean, he may end up just questing with the other two one power guys, leaving the Flint. But okay, just gonna hard cast the Be King Undisputed, which makes sense. Get clean answer to that Flavor Sham. We're tired of it just questing away and eating items and drawing more cards. And going into turn 6, Roderick is at 12 lore. So Frank's going to do something. A hand full of cards. Surely he's got something to answer this board. We're even in be prepared territory at this point.
Wow, look at that Maui in Roderick's hand. A lot of strong Ruby cards in this Bucky Diablo list as well.
Yeah, and we also see the Queen of Hearts we've actually seen on camera already today out of the Amber Ruby Locations deck that we had on coverage. But yeah, I mean, it seems interesting in this deck as well. Once you have gotten the value out of your come into play effects, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to like throw this Ursula or one drop Diablo away in a challenge if you're getting to draw an extra card. But we do see Frank does have that be prepared, and see what Roderick will have to follow up next turn. We still got the Bucky. Maui's not going to be doing a whole lot. The one drop won't be doing a whole lot. He does opt to go with that. Let's see what Frank's working with. And we see that Vitalisphere, which I haven't seen on coverage so far this weekend, but a card that has been creeping up in popularity in these Ruby Sapphire decks is just an additional one-drop item that could be Flavor Sham food, or in a pinch can give one of your newly played characters rush to immediately challenge something.
A ton of ink on Frank's side of the board. Lots of things. We saw a Tamatoa in his hand earlier, which would have been his second one because he already inked one earlier in the match. Lots of things that he can play to try to gain some value here. Still has lots of time to come back.
Yeah, really the only thing Roderick's got going for him now is being in a 12 lore count. Frank just at 1, but that's not really enough in this color pairing to run away with the game. You're not playing Amethyst with those ways to kind of ink out the last few lore. And Frank's he's got a little bit too much in play. I mean, we're at the point where Medusa's taking out one-drop Diablos, but followed with just a one jump ahead. I mean, not bad. I mean, Roderick has still got the Bucky, but it's a little short here. With Frank still got a healthy amount of cards left in his hand. So he's going to go with the Queen of Hearts, which is a Floodborn, which I've never seen relevant for Queen of Hearts. But Queen of Hearts, interesting card, forcing your opponent to discard when it comes into play.
Really, this Ruby pairing, and this is what's so great, it's making me rethink the possibilities of Bucky in different color pairings.
Yeah, I mean, this is the third color combination we've seen just today, combined with the Bucky and Diablo package.
When are we going to see the Emerald Sapphire Bucky Diablo list? When's it coming?
I mean, Emerald has some interesting. I mean, Sapphire has some interesting Floodborns as well. But yeah, Frank going with the Tamatoa, getting back a Popsicle, just not what any color pairing of Bucky wants to see on the board. Now going to decide if you want this Madame Medusa to go in for one lore. Is it worth it? Roderick could potentially challenge his queen. It would be a trade, but he'd get to replace himself and draw a card. And Frank decides, no, that's not worth it. I'm way ahead on board. It's fine. Roderick finding the Pegasus. And yep, Cloud Racer Pegasus did not shift, so you don't get that additional hop-on ability, but it's a 3/3 Floodborn, the quest for 2 with Evasive. So we see Frank discard the Vitalisphere, which is fine. Yeah, we're in dragon territory at this point. So the steed is gone. There's items for Tamatoa to get back once he starts questing.
Yeah, we're in big character range or double playing range with this Ruby Sapphire list. This is really coming together for Frank, even though Roderick is at 12, not able to quest very effectively with these Tamatoas and Dragon Maleficents running around. Tamatoa just getting bigger and bigger with its ability quest, with being able to find and get back these items for Frank.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be pretty shocked if Roderick would be able to pull this one out. He did kind of have an awkward start. I definitely think Bucky can give Ruby Sapphire some issues. It just kind of didn't add up the way he wanted this game. So we get the Maui taking out the Madame Medusa. Now, I mean, Maui with the Queen of Hearts is a pretty sweet combo. He does get to draw a card after that challenge, and Maui is sticking around to party for a little bit longer. But I mean, Frank still got this Tamatoa. It's going to be pretty difficult to get off the board, along with that dragon. If he does decide to expose the Tamatoa, I mean, the Maui combined with the Queen of Hearts could do it. And in the process, Roderick would get to draw 2 additional cards, so it's actually not the worst trade on that side. The dragon would still be left to kind of run free. And you know, don't forget the Tamatoa would get an item back for free. And once Frank decides to pull the trigger on that, there's a lucky dime just waiting in the wings in his discard pile. But he's got another Maleficent Dragon. Got to decide, do you want to hit the Maui or you want to hit the Queen of Hearts? And I don't disagree with that. Let's get the Queen of Hearts out of here. I don't want you drawing any more cards. Maui's only got one health left. So he's, 4 damage counters already on him. And yeah, I think Frank's just, I wouldn't be surprised he may just quest with both here. So we get 3 lore off of the Tamatoa quest, and we'll get an item back. Could get the Vitalosphere or the Lucky Dime. Decides to go with the Vitalosphere. Could be inked. Could just see play. We'll keep pumping up that Tamatoa lore value.
Honestly, what a great way to use Queen of Hearts with Maui. Because you want that Maui to be challenging in. It's going to draw you cards with the Queen. But now, like you were saying, Frank opting not to challenge into the Maui, requiring Roderick to challenge in. That way you're gaining your lore, and you're still going to get that Maui off the board.
Yeah, so it looks like, yeah, Roderick's contemplating what does he want to do with this Maui? Where does he want that 6 damage to go? And yeah, I mean, it's not going to be enough to take out the Tamatoa, but might as well get one of those dragons off of the field. We're going to have an Ursula Deceiver, see what Frank's working with in his hand, and that's bad news. That is the legendary Sisu that would all but clear just Roderick's side of the board, and that's enough. He's had enough. He doesn't want to keep playing that one anymore. I think Roderick could have a better start in this matchup. That start seemed a little awkward. We didn't really get off the ground like he was hoping for. So Frank will take game 1, and yeah, we'll hang out here a little bit while they shuffle up, get ready for game 2. Got a couple announcements for you, but yeah, we don't have a backup matchup for this round. These are the only 2 players still alive fighting it out, trying to make that top 8 day 2 cut.
And with this match being the last one of the day, we will be returning tomorrow, Sunday, for our top 8 matches. We'll make sure to have those deck lists available for y'all tomorrow for the top 8. We have the Melee link in the Twitch chat, rotating every so often for you to find. That way you can see the standings and the pairings if you'd like to see those. But we're going to be streaming tomorrow here at Charlie's Collectible Show for their Lorcana 10K top 8. We want to thank Charlie's Collectible Show for allowing us 20 Lore Pro to come here today and to announce and stream their Lorcana event. 20 Lore Pro will also be live next week at Game Castle for their Lorcana 1K. Head on over to 20lore.pro YouTube for all of the rounds if you miss any in today's tournament. We'll have all of those available to you later on this upcoming week. We want to thank Nexus for helping produce today's stream. Nexus is a gaming venue located in Waco, Texas. Nexus offers esports, TCG, and dining, and is an elite gaming hangout to build your local gaming community. We want to just shout out 20 Lore Pro. We've had such a pleasure really traveling around Texas and streaming as many 1Ks and different Lorcana tournaments as we can. But we also have a large Discord community where we try and strive to help the competitive Lorcana scene grow and develop. If you haven't been to the 20 Lore Pro Discord, head on over and check out our deck discussion section where you can find out the latest deck list for Set 4 competitive Lorcana. We want to give a shout out to Diamond Ink Apparel, who did the artwork for today's mats. We also have a special top 4 playmat that's going to be featured in all of our matches tomorrow. If you enjoy the art and you like what they do, head on over to diamondinkaapparel.com and get your latest artwork for any commissions you may have. And lastly, we want to thank GFQ Underground for printing the mats. They took that amazing artwork from Diamond Ink Apparel and were able to place that on the mats. If you're looking for custom play mats, head on over to GFQ Underground's Discord. And here we are into game 2 of round 8. Roderick piloting a Emerald Ruby Bucky list versus Frank piloting a Ruby Sapphire list.
Yep, so Roderick on the play goes with the turn 1 Diablo, take a look at his opponent's hand, and here's the ideal start. Here's the dream. You got turn 2 Bucky, you shift the Diablo immediately knowing what your opponent's got in their hand. Frank had the decent start too with the turn 1 Popsicles, what they're looking for. But now Roderick has got an exerted Diablo going into Frank's turn 2. So even if they're able to find a brawl, it's going to be one more turn before they're going to be able to fire that off. And by then, Diablo's already done some damage. They had to discard a card and already got to draw 2 extra cards off of it. But still going to be a necessary evil. You can't let that thing sit and play, especially if your game plan is going to be Flavor Sham and try to draw some extra cards, get to the high ink count, and survive to the late game. So you're really going to need a clean answer, and Brawl's pretty much all that they have right now. So we'll see what Frank has going into turn 2.
Now, I was looking at the chat here for the mulligans. I didn't get a chance to see that, but it seems like Frank went ahead and mulled all 7, not liking what he had. We'll see how this plays out for him. I mean, so far having that turn 1 Popsicle seems like a good indicator that he's got a healthy hand.
Yeah, and Roderick, he goes with a Sisu, and so doesn't have a turn 3 Floodborn, but still pressuring with a decent amount of lore value. And we see that Teeth and Ambitions, and Roderick's discard is surely that is what was pitched to shift the Diablo on turn 2. That's probably a pretty good card against opposing Diablos, and we saw him ink a Brawl as well too. So he came packing with a lot of answers to opposing Diablos, and then with the hope of his getting to stick around a little longer. But Frank does have the turn 3 Brawl. It's exactly what he needed to keep in this game. But Roderick immediately fires back with a second Diablo, triggering Bucky again, forcing Frank to discard that legendary Sisu that we saw that closed the game out for Frank at the end of game 1. So this is more of the lines that Roderick was wanting to see in his opener. But now he has a window. He got rid turn 3. He brawled the Diablo, and Roderick did have another Diablo to follow up, but it's not exerted. So the Flavor Sham's able to eat that Popsicle, draw 2 extra cards, and Roderick doesn't get to draw any additional ones from his Diablo. But man, this is such a good back and forth. Roderick has the Beat King Undisputed to immediately deal an answer with that Flavor Sham. So even if Frank had more items to eat, he doesn't have that option. So he's just going to go with an ink, a 1 jump ahead, and now he's threatening Be Prepared territory next turn.
For Roderick, having just the ability to have Diablo and Bucky on the board, really trying to control some of this resources that he's giving him more of an advantage. Frank has really, even though he has nothing on the board, has kept at least his inkwell continually increasing, like you were saying, Hal, looking hopefully for this Be Prepared range, because he needs to find a way to deal with all of this, especially with Roderick being at 14 lore.
Yeah, and so Frank's going to go with the Madame Medusa here, which is perfectly fine. It's going to take out the opposing Diablo. And even though Roderick had the turn 2 Bucky, he hasn't really just had a running chain of Floodborns to eat at Frank's hand. And Frank's been very selective with the cards that he's played and inked. So he's still got a decent amount, at least 3 or 4 cards still left in his hand. I think I see another Madame Medusa as well. So, yeah, I mean, with that turn 2 Bucky, especially in this matchup, you really want to see just more Floodborns. Now, he didn't have none. He did have 2 Diablos, but just 2 cards, and then the Flavor Sham was unchecked for a minute and got to draw 2 extra cards. So, yeah, I mean, Frank's still got plenty of time to draw out of this. I think we're going to see another Madame Medusa, and that's going to take out the 1-drop Pegasus. And I wouldn't be surprised. We're just going to see the trade of the Sisu. So Roderick is just left with the 1-1 Bucky.
Also, being here at 17 lore, Roderick just having 4 or 5 cards in hand, I think just getting anything, and honestly, a Flynn Floodborn reducing Frank's hand, getting up to 18, anything he can do.
I think it's funny. Roderick is just questing with this Bucky. I think he's just like expecting Be Prepared to come down, but now he's kind of going to get punished here. I mean, it was just another Madame Medusa instead. takes out the Flynn, and now the Medusa can just challenge into the Bucky. So I think that may have been a little hasty on Roderick's part, but I think he was kind of like, man, I'm running out of gas. I want to at least get the lore out of it. Oh, that's because Roderick was at 18, so the super goof.
Yeah, no,
I was thinking the super goof play. So that is one thing in this this red-green deck that he can get just an instant 2 lore. So that makes a lot more sense. I mean, quest with the Bucky and get to 18, and then super goof just takes it out. Because, I mean, that Bucky's looking a little too juicy. How is Frank not going to challenge into it? But it's not like you can really play around super goof. At some point in the game, if you're at 18, it's going to get in.
And we saw Super Goof earlier, at least in the match, but goodness, to think that that's what you're okay with letting your Bucky get challenged and banished because you know this is coming down next.
Yeah, because he actually quested with the Bucky the turn before too, putting him at 17. And Frank actually, that's why he challenged into the Sisu instead of the Bucky, because he's like, well, I can't let Sisu quest for 2 more and put him at 19. It was all bait for Super Goof to take the win for game 2.
Super Goof really being the hero that you and I and we all need. Well, again, we want to thank y'all so much for watching here in our last round of today's tournament. We're going to be streaming top 8 tomorrow here at Charlie's Collectible Show. If you miss any of the rounds from today's tournament, you can head on over to 20lore Pro/YouTube later on this week, and we'll have all of these rounds posted for you to see. We'll also be live on Twitch next Saturday at Game Castle in Austin for the Lorcana 10K.
Right, players are shuffled up for game 3. They're taking a look at their opening hands, what they want to mulligan. Let's see if Roderick is able to pull this one out on the draw against Ruby Sapphire. I feel like this matchup, even with the turn 2 Bucky, can be pretty rough. And you really need that Bucky start, I believe, to have a chance. But let's see what happens. I think Frank only threw back a couple cards, where last game he threw back like 6 or maybe even the whole 7. So he may have just had an awkward opening.
That's tough, having to pitch back all 7. If sometimes you just have to do it. You know the strategies you have, you know the cards you're looking for the specific matchup, and it's just something you have to do. Not something you want to do, though.
Yeah, so Frank starts as Avi, inks a Tamatoa, plays a Popsicle. That's the start we're always looking for. Roderick is going to let us take a full look at Frank's hand. He's got a Brawl, he's got a 1 jump ahead to develop your brains, a Grandma Tala, and a second Popsicle. So he's got the open, he's got the Popsicle, he's got the 1 jump ahead. Now he's got Grandma Tala instead of Flavor Sham, but I mean, you take what you can get. The hand's almost a perfect start, not to mention the Brawl ready to go if Roderick decides to shift that Diablo on turn 2, which is a little less terrifying when you're already with the Brawl. Ink ready to go. Now I see 2 Buckies in Roderick's hand. So yeah, we're going with that plan. He's going to go ahead and shift, fire it off. Knowing that the Brawl is coming, I wonder if maybe you wait 1 more turn so you can double Bucky shift. But he decides to go ahead and fire it off now. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Your opponent discards a card, you draw a card. Frank is pretty much locked into having to spend his turn brawling this turn anyway. So think it's fine. And then next turn you may just develop the second Bucky, and then past that start playing your 4 and 5 cost Floodborns to make Frank double draw. And so far we didn't see a Flavor Sham out of Frank, but he did have a couple develop your brains and a Grandma Tala to dig a little bit deeper. Roderick's hand, we still see that second Bucky. We've got a Flynn, Frenemy, we've got a 1-drop Pegasus, a Brawl of his own, and that Shift Flynn, the Floodborn that we've been seeing on coverage all weekend. So I wouldn't be surprised if the line's going to be second Bucky, but he actually goes with the Flynn Rider. So maybe he thinks he can start running away with a lure value race. This deck's really interesting. You've got like these separate lines or openings where you can go for a Bucky discard line, or you can go for like a Flynn Frenemy line and try to run away with all the lore. So went ahead and inked the other Bucky, and I mean Frank has already ramped once at least, so maybe he's thinking, it's the Bucky's line's going to be too slow. I need to try to get a bunch of lore now.
I like during Frank's last turn, he was able to play Brawl and then have a follow-up play with that Popsicle. That just adds at least a little bit of value on top of that play that you were forced into with the Brawl getting rid of Diablo. We see here they didn't have a follow-up Flavor Sham, but he is able to play this Grandma Tala.
Yeah, so Grandma Tala comes into play and basically just does the develop your brain effect. So he gets to take a look at the top two, put one in his hand and one on the bottom of the deck. And let's see. I mean, here's the problem. Frank's already up to 5 ink. You know, next turn could be Madame Medusa range. The turn after that could be prepared. Then he goes ahead and fires off one of those developer brains that we saw revealed by that turn 1 Diablo. And that decision went pretty quick on that one. So it must have been a good easy choice for Frank. But going back over to Roderick, he does still have one of the Buckies in play. Probably going to ink the Brawl. Since his opponent didn't have Flavor Sham, we don't need it. It can't hit the Grand Maltala. And we're going to see a Shift Flynn discard from the Bucky. Hits a Lucky Dime, always an easy discard target for the Ruby Sapphire deck just because you're nowhere near playing it, and then they can always get it back with the Tamatoa once they're ready to get into the end game.
Yeah, Frank's still here with 4 cards in hand. Has a lot of ink available to him. We just got word from our producer that we will be live tomorrow at 10 a.m. for the top 8 for the Charlie's Collectible show. So tomorrow, join us over here on Twitch at 10 a.m. for top 8.
So Frank does find, it was probably one of these developer brain effects from last turn, finds the Flavor Sham, and he had 3 popsicles to choose from. So if Roderick doesn't have an answer to that Flavor Sham, it's going to draw 2 extra cards a turn. And unfortunately, Roderick actually inked the Brawl just last turn, which, I mean, isn't really an oversight. He looked at Frank's hand a couple turns ago. He knew that the Grand Maltala was coming, but it just didn't feel like he could save it for a potential Flavor Sham on down the road. Decided to keep progressing his board state. But now Roderick's only got 1 card left in hand, and this 1 Bucky trigger a turn is not going to be enough if Flavor Sham's drawing you 2 extra cards a turn. Roderick taking a look. He has a Queen of Hearts and he has a Bee King Undisputed. So if he wants, he can run Flynn and one of the other ones into that Grand Maltala and then play the Bee King Undisputed to finish off the Flavor Sham. But it's not great. It would mean that he loses at least the Flynn and the Pegasus. And all he's left is with the Bucky. But I think he does have to make this play because Flavor Sham unchecked is just going to be too much. It's the only hope that Roderick has to stay in this game. Frank was still 3 to 4 cards left in hand, already up to 6 ink. Roderick just is sitting there with the 1 Bucky in play and the Queen of Hearts in hand. Let's see what Frank can develop this turn. It's, well, just a 1 jump ahead so far, and that's all. Okay, so back over to Roderick. He's going to ink to 5. He's going to play the Queen of Hearts and trigger Bucky 1 more time. And now Frank is down to, I think, only 1 card left in hand. Discards a Brawl. Man, I feel like if Frank draws anything, it's going to be lights out. And, well, okay, the CC doesn't take out the Queen of Hearts, but it does take out the Bucky. And even just the size of the Sisu and the 3 Laura value may be enough to run away with this. And Roderick playing this scroll. Is it just Ursula's scroll?
Oh,
It's
no.
basically whenever your opponent plays a song, you draw a card. That is definitely a tech card if I've ever seen one. Just a hateful card against opposing song players. At this point in the game, it's probably not going to do much, but on turn 2, it definitely could. Yeah, sign contract, 2-cost inkable item. Whenever opponent plays a song, you may draw a card. So on turn 2 in certain matchups, it actually could be pretty interesting. But at this point in the game, probably not going to do too much. It would be funny if at some point Roderick can develop a board big enough to where Frank feel like he has to be prepared. Roderick will get to draw a card off of the be prepared.
Roderick here got to draw off that challenge from the Queen. Able to take out Sisu.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to win the lore race over the Sisu, so you might as well go ahead and take it out, and you get to draw a card for your troubles. Roderick goes with the Floodborn Pegasus, and Frank immediately answers it with the Madame Medusa. All right, and we see Roderick with another Pegasus. Yeah,
Frank having to
we got,
read
we
this
got a
contract.
reader. We got a reader, folks. Yeah, not signed contract, not a card we've seen a ton of play out of. I'm not gonna lie, I've definitely thought about playing this card myself. In the right metagame, it definitely could see play. But Frank's got another Madame Medusa taking out another Pegasus and just getting more and more on the board, just having an answer to Roderick's threats every time. Roderick with a B King undisputed, just having to hard cast it, no character to sing it. One card left in hand, it's a one drop flame, gonna go ahead and throw it down. Frank drawing for the turn, up to 3 cards in hand now. It's probably going to be all too much for the Emerald Ruby bucket list, and this has got to be just the lights out here. He's got the Flavor Sham, still got 2 popsicles left, draw 2 extra cards. I would imagine this is going to be just a little too much for Roderick. Yeah, Frank also throwing down a McDuck Manor on the same turn. Inking a 3-drop Sisu. Medusa's free to just go ahead and quest in for 1. Frank should have it in probably the next 3 turns or so. Project does hit a How Far I'll Go out with that Ursula Deceiver. Frank probably wasn't going to cast it anyway because of the signed contract. He definitely could have. It's not a big deal. But yeah, Roderick's seen enough. That's going to do it. Frank's going to take this game 2 of 3 and see what the tiebreaker shake out to. Frank may have an outside chance to make it into that top 8 cut for day 2. But that's it. We've had 8 rounds, great matches today at Charlie's Collectible Show. We've got some more fun and more games to look at tomorrow. Like we mentioned, 10 a.m. tomorrow for the top 8 cut. And then following the top 8, there's actually a $2,000 prize tournament on Sunday here. So after we're done covering the top 8 of the 10K, we will show the remainder of that 2K event as well. So we've got a lot of Lorcana games to show you tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and yeah, we will see you tomorrow.
Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. We're here at the end of the day here at Charlie's Collectible Show's Lorcana 10K. We're getting ready to go into the top 8 tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. But before we end today's stream, we want to go over a little bit of what tomorrow is going to look like for the top 8 and the breakdowns. Again, I'm one of your announcers, SirAshtown, and joining with me is Hal Brady, who has the list. If you want to see these deck lists, you can see them here in about 15-20 minutes over on 20lore.pro.
So no surprise, really, for the top 8. We saw a lot of unique and interesting decks on coverage today. Some were doing well, but for the cut to top 8, it's not really a shocker. Finishing in first for day 1, we've got Lucas Serrano on the Ruby Amethyst Bounce deck. We saw him on coverage a couple times today. Not surprised he ended up in first after the 8 rounds of Swiss. Second place, we've got Lewis Taylor on the Ruby Sapphire items deck. Also on the Ruby Sapphire items deck, our third place, Enrique Eligio, and then 4th place, Kendall Burdett. We saw him. That's No I'm Not. We got on the Ruby Amethyst Bounce deck as well. And then we have Chen Yang on the Emerald Steel Bucky list. John Rowe also on Emerald Steel Bucky. Brian Hurlow also Emerald Steel Bucky. And then last but not least, James Gray squeaking into 8th place on Sapphire Steel. So that's the top 8. Not a big shocker, but we've got some great players left in top 8 for tomorrow, and we'll have some great matches. Then followed by the 2K coverage.
Yeah, so after tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, stick around from the stream and we'll make sure to have that 2K coverage for y'all. And next week, 20 Lore Pro will be in Austin at Game Castle for their Lorcana 1K. So we have plenty of Lorcana competitive coverage to give y'all here in the near future. Thank y'all so much for joining us here today. Thank you, Hal, for everything. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Have a good night.